Alright, I was on Facebook and I found this article published in The Guardian by Julie Bindel titled Outrage over French Girl's Rape Case Sparks Demand for Law to Protect Minors. Campaigners call for the introduction of an age of consent as 20 firefighters face charges. Justice pour Julie, the sign reads, which translates to Justice for Julie. Protests in November last year after a French court rejected an appeal to classify the attacks on Julie as rape. Published Sunday, February 7th, 2021. Protests will take place across France on Sunday in support of a woman allegedly raped by 20 firefighters when she was between 13 and 15 years old. Her case is being examined in the country's highest court this week, and campaigners hope it will lead to an age of sexual consent being enshrined in law, as it is in the rest of the European Union. Julie says she was raped by Parisian firefighters over a period of 2 years, having been groomed by Pierre, a firefighter who had assisted her during a severe anxiety seizure when she was 13 in early 2008. 3 of the accused have admitted they had sex with her, but say it was consensual. You can't have consensual sex with a minor. Moving on. In a journal written shortly afterwards, Julie says she was terrified and paralyzed with fear at the time. Based at the Bourg-la-Reine fire station in Paris, Pierre got Julie's phone number from her medical file, in which her age was also recorded. Julie says he bombarded her with affectionate messages. Later, he asked Julie to undress via webcam. When the child complied, passed her number to another firefighter who demanded the same. Julie's case will reach its conclusion on Wednesday at the Court of Cassation, the Supreme Court of Appeal. Lawyers will argue that all 20 firefighters, who are from various stations, should be charged with rape. Currently, only 3 men are charged with sexual violation. This is just patriarchy in action, male privilege. French legislation says that it is an offense for someone in a position of authority to have sex with a person under the age of 18. Under law, in order to bring rape charges, the complainant must prove she was forced or violently coerced, otherwise the accused may only be charged with sexual violation. Why is it up to the victim to prove that the perpetrator had violent intent in order to prove that an adult male raped that child? What is happening in this world that is the procedure? The maximum sentence for sexual violation is 7 years, compared with 20 for rape. According to statements to the investigators, Julie's mental and physical health began to deteriorate after the assaults, which resulted in more seizures, and firefighters attended her home 130 times over 2 years. Julie became scared of going out and was prescribed anti-anxiety medication. Instead of keeping her abusers away from her, they gave her medication so that she could just handle it. Just deal with it. Just ignore it. Her mother, Corinne Leriche, told investigators she was at first pleased that Pierre would call at the house to inquire after Julie's health. "I even made a cake for the firemen," she said. "We were grateful that they had looked after Julie when she was ill." In January 2009, Pierre dropped in on the family home and Leriche took the dog for a walk. Leriche claimed that during this time he raped her daughter. "I thought he was the last person to do such a thing because he had helped her so many times and saw how vulnerable she was." In November 2009, Pierre, in full uniform, took 14-year-old Julie to his apartment, where she told investigators he raped her again. 2 colleagues came over, and Julie says she was gang raped while the men watched pornography. what is, how do men get jobs and remain employed and stay out of jail? What, all of the things that these, and they get paid by the government. They were paid by the government to rape a little girl. In 2018, following protests from feminists, a change in the law was proposed that would introduce an age of consent at 15. This would mean that sex with someone younger would be considered rape. But the law was not passed after a government report concluded it would result in an assumption of guilt. Well, yeah, if you're an adult male and you're having sex with a minor female, you are guilty. Because you entered into the act, you are guilty. Period. If you don't want to be guilty, don't rape minors. Julie was taken off medication in July 2010 as part of a treatment review and, having a clearer mind, disclosed the abuse to her mother. On August 31st, Le Riche filed an official complaint to the police. 6 months later, 3 men accused of raping Julie at Pierre's home were placed under investigation, but no action was taken against the remaining 17. Someone needs to explain how that's possible. There's no excuse. There's no explanation. Things like this cannot fly under the radar. We cannot stay silent about rapists. The fact that 17 out of 20 rapists were not charged. 17 out of 20 rapists were not charged. I don't even know what else to say. During questioning, 2 of the accused men admitted they had had group sex with Julie while on duty and wearing their uniforms. Like I said, got paid by the government to rape a little girl and use their position of power over her to exert coercive control in order to use her body. I'm thoroughly disgusted. I want castration for all rapists. Another admitted a sexual act in a toilet cubicle of a Parisian hospital where Julie had been admitted, yet claimed to have not noticed that the child displayed any signs of vulnerability. How can this sentence exist in fucking reality? What is happening right now? A child who was admitted to a hospital. Why are these firefighters who have no education in psychology or medicine making judgments on the child's state of vulnerability while the child is admitted to a hospital because they wanted to access her body for sexual purposes? Can somebody make that make sense for me? Can somebody? Because I can't make it make sense. I really can't. In March 2011, a judge was appointed to investigate the case regarding the 3 accused of gang rape. The investigation took 8 years, at the end of which, in July 2019, the judge decided to drop the rape charges and replace them with consensual penetrative sex with a minor under 15. No. No male judge should ever preside over a rape case. This is so sick and twisted and vile and dehumanizing and degrading. This is absolutely abhorrent. I cannot. In the early stages of investigation, 4 other firefighters who were present at one of the alleged rapes were charged with failure to protect, but all charges were subsequently dropped. To me, I think that's redundant. I don't even know how could a charge for failure to protect ever be dropped? Just as statutory rape is a strict liability offense, failure to protect would be a strict liability offense. I don't see how that charge could ever be dropped without having an incredible defense, because this is something that you pretty much can't provide a defense to. The only defenses to strict liability offenses are act of God, so tsunami, earthquake, tornado, ice storm, some uncontrollable weather event, or inexplicable circumstance that resulted in the crime having been committed. Alternatively, there's the defense of plaintiff's own fault. So the plaintiff put themselves in the position of having an offense committed against them, or wrongful act by third party, which means like another firefighter must have stopped that firefighter from preventing or putting a stop to and or reporting the abuse that was occurring to this girl. Those are the three circumstances in which you could potentially defend yourself against this charge. And without having used one of these defenses, to me, having had experience in municipal court, there are no circumstances under which a charge like this would be withdrawn or dropped. On hearing the outcome of the investigation in 2019, Julie attempted suicide, suffering serious injuries in the process. The family rejected the judge's decision and took the case to the Court of Appeal in Versailles. Last November, the appeal was thrown out because the court decided that Julie had consented to the sexual acts. How is there a court system anywhere in the world that is saying a minor can consent to sexual activity with an adult authority figure? Whoa. Marguerite Stern and her feminist group, L'Amazone, will be one of several women's groups in France which will be staging public demonstrations in solidarity with Julie. For 10 years, they were fighting alone. Now thousands of feminists from all over France are joining them, said Stern. We are demanding that the firefighters be tried for rape and not sexual violation. This culture of misogyny in our courts must end. The public prosecutor in Julie's case is hoping that, if successful, it will lay down new case law to remove the necessity to prove use of force or additional violence to secure a rape conviction of a minor under the age of 15. Yeah, because, like, logic and common sense. And we're not living in, like, prehistoric times. This is so barbaric. I had no idea it was this bad in France. I really did not. Marjolaine Vignola, Julie's legal advocate, says every stereotype about rape is in this case. The judges and the psychiatrists say Julie is a liar, that she consented to sex with all those men, and that she is lying about being raped because she is ashamed. Calls for a minimum age of consent in France have been increasing. Last month, the Senate backed a bill to make the age of consent 13, a threshold age considered insufficient by child protection associations. Yes, of course. Yes. 13 is insufficient. Absolutely 100% insufficient.